Blast from the Grassroots, connecting people and sharing ideas. Hello and welcome back to Duran ASEAN. You're with Gowri.
And this is Grace.
And we are back for our Blast from the Grassroots session for Monday morning. And in the studio we have two guests who are joining us today to discuss about the White Ribbon campaign from AWAM. And we have Kang Yu, who is a performing artist, and we also have Timothy, who is the assistant program officer. So let's say hello to them. Hello,
Good morning.
guys.
Hi.
Morning, ladies.
How are you guys doing this morning?
I'm good.
Good?
I'm fine, yeah.
Good. It's a little earlier than
Yeah.
always, but it's not too bad.
No, it's early for us too, actually. We're just
Every
good
day.
at faking it. So maybe before we start, you guys can give a little introduction to yourself first. Maybe Kang Yu can start.
It's a bit of a long story. In a nutshell, I'm a multifaceted performing artist, and I do a whole bunch of different things. I'm a rhythm tap dancer. I also do a bit of hosting, acting when I can, a whole bunch of different things. And my role in the White Ribbon Campaign 2014 is as one of a whole bunch of different guys who are on board as the White Ribbon ambassadors.
Right. And Timothy?
For me, I just joined AWAM, like a month ago. So this is kind of my first experience.
Right.
I mean, joining, this NGO work. Yeah.
So what made you guys join and be participate in this AWAM or White Ribbon campaign?
For me, I think violence, because White Ribbon campaign is basically about violence against women. We men and boys are, together to put end to this, violence against women. So for me, men who start it, and men should be the one who stop it. I mean, like the end.
That's a very controversial statement. Men should start it, so men should
And not
stop
should.
it.
I mean, like men who start it.
Oh,
And, yeah.
okay.
Should definitely
Yeah.
put an end to it. I think
Yeah,
we
that's
should.
definitely more important. And this is actually my second year being involved with the White Ribbon Campaign.
I see.
I was on board last year with the 2013 edition, and it's great to be back. It's great to be part of, as Tim was saying, a whole bunch of guys who are concerned and who want to put an end to violence against women.
So how does this whole campaign work? Why White Ribbon, and how does it reach out to people?
Well, as far as I know, the White Ribbon Campaign was initiated in 1991 in Canada after there was this horrible incident where I believe it was 14 feminists who were shot down by, I guess, a crazed gunman.
Okay.
And then following that, actually, a bunch of guys in Canada, in response to that incident, they came out and they started and they initiated this White Ribbon Campaign, which since then, of course, has become a global phenomenon. It's a global campaign.
And you want to add on to that?
Yeah, pretty much what this Kang Yu said.
Okay.
Yeah.
And besides that, maybe how does it reach out to people? How do people know about this campaign and
Okay, actually, the White Ribbon campaign is AWAM intends to generate awareness of violence against women and to get men and boys involved, because we see that most men, maybe they didn't know how to respond on this, matters. So this is one kind of platform for them to speak out against, violence against women.
So basically, it's a bunch of guys coming together and trying to increase awareness on domestic violence.
In general, on all issues pertaining to violence against women.
Okay.
And this is where an organization like AWAM, the All Women's Action Society of Malaysia, comes in and plays a pivotal role in not just organizing the event per se, not just organizing the White Ribbon Campaign per se, but also through their main work actually of empowering women and basically protecting women's rights, protecting women against abuse, violence, and issues like that. So they are, AWAM is the key organizer, it's the organizer, in fact, of the White Ribbon Campaign for Malaysia. And in extension to that, that's where, and that's how I'm involved as one of a whole bunch of guys who are on board as White Ribbon ambassadors.
So what is the domestic violence? How bad is it in Malaysia?
So I have a statistic here, police statistics on violence against women in Malaysia. According to 2013, it's kind of like very worrying because, domestic violence alone is like 4,123 cases. This is only reported cases. What more, like, some of, the victims are, some of them, they keep it for themselves. And
I'm sure there are still a lot of numbers that, people don't report
yes,
to the public.
exactly. So this is, it's kind of increasing this year.
It has increased again.
Yep.
So you said, Kong Yu, you said you actually participated last year.
That's right.
So this year, what will be the new activities or stuff that you will involved?
Well, essentially, I believe this is the third year of White Ribbon Campaign Malaysia, and I was on board last year as well. And generally, it's centered again over the main event, which is the run, which is happening this year on the 7th of December at Padang Merbuk. And generally, also, there will be, leading up to the run, a whole series of workshops involving the guys who are on board as ambassadors, which are also open to any guys out there who would like to find out a little bit more about this issue and how they can, as men and boys, empower themselves also to be in support of this issue. So there's the main run, and then there is a whole series of workshops related to that. And this year is a little bit unique because there's an additional event to that, which involves men stepping into women's shoes.
So
right?
men wearing high heels.
As I understand it, yes.
It doesn't mean high heels. You can like wear any shoes that your moms wear, your grandmothers wear, as a symbolic.
And how is it going to be conducted? I mean, the men wear women's shoes, and then they have to walk for how long? And then
actually, they're only gonna walk like 100 meter before the run and walk start.
Okay.
So it's not only a stunt, but it's a symbolic walk. It's a very sacred and noble walk.
So what does it symbolize?
By saying that you walk for the 2,767 women and girls who reported bravely enough to report their rape case to the police in 2013. And you can also like say that you work for all women and girls in your life because they they deserve to be treated respect and dignity. So something like
So will you guys be participating in that as well?
I'm pretty sure we are. So it's and as Tim was saying, I mean, it's a pretty symbolic thing to do. It's also not just putting ourselves or putting our perspective into women's perspective to some extent, whatever that is possible. But it's also symbolic in the sense that you could also use it the guys could also use it as a representation of particular causes, sub-causes, like Tim was saying, representing maybe people, women who have been abused or been on the receiving end of abuse and violence. So there are many perspectives to take, and the whole idea is literally to step into other people's shoes, in this case into women's shoes.
And to see things from their perspective too.
Indeed, that is the whole idea and purpose behind the whole campaign in the first place. So this is in addition to the usual run and walk, which everybody can take part of and everybody should sign up for in support of the cause.
And apart from that, you mentioned that there will be some workshops as well. So is there any workshop in particular that people can look forward to, or anything that you recommend people should attend?
We just did a workshop for White Ribbon workshop back in 18 October at the past. So in future, you can check our website as well. awam.org.my.
And
for future activities.
So this whole campaign is about to bring up the awarenesses, not only to men, also women. But then I mentioned shortly before that even if we do have statistics on domestic violence, we still do have, I believe there are a lot of hidden reports or women that are still scared of reporting when it comes to violence. How do we overcome that? Is there any procedure or steps that they need to take?
Well, this is where I guess AWAM plays a key role. It's continuous work. It's the cornerstone or at least one of the cornerstones, of the responsibilities of AWAM. So the best way to do that is actually, number one, is to be strong enough to speak out against
To be
it.
strong enough, it comes with a lot of psychological, strength.
It does, yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
so-
it would. And you're absolutely right, Grace. And this is where, an organization like AWAM does a great job of that. And maybe Tim would like to talk about how that is possible and how anybody in that perspective can not just, like you said, Grace, it takes strength to step out and
Exactly.
to speak on this issue, especially especially when one is on the receiving end of abuse. If we're talking about a particular lady in question, but they can always reach out to an organization like AWAM and get all sorts of encouragement and help and support along the way. So it's not just in speaking out straight away, but also in getting counseling and also in learning how to handle situations like that.
I mean, counseling is very important, and also that will lead to educate people. And then females are always considered as a weaker sex than, of course, males. And that's when domestic violence is actually a serious issue, not only in Malaysia but worldwide. But then I'm curious here, how is it different, like, domestic violence in cities and also in villages?
Okay. I mean, like, I'm not heavily been informed by that. I can't really answer the question, but all I can say is women should, they should brave enough, because there are acts, domestic violence act that are protecting them. So they shouldn't be like afraid of, their.
A lot of it is in education, in the proper support channels and things like that. And that's a great question, because I think Tim and I are coming from the perspective that we probably are a little bit more from the, like I said, a little bit more from the urban side.
Exactly.
Those are things I personally, besides maybe verbal abuse, I don't have sort of like first-hand experience and seeing people around me
I see.
in those situations. So it is a great question, and it is sometimes a little harder for people like us, I think, to put ourselves in perspective of that. And we can only sort of conjecture, or perhaps maybe imagine how it would be for, like you said, domestic violence in a more rural community,
Yes.
with more rural families. It's of course a great concern as well. And the best thing to do, and I think the best method, in my opinion, is again in education and support. So it does take a different group of people, and this is where also AWAM does a great job of that with the workshops and the work that they do all around the country, with various personalities and people who do chip in very hard work, put in a lot of labor, a lot of love into creating those workshops and educating women, not just in urban centers, but also in rural areas about issues like that. So I believe the former Mrs. Universe, Carol Lee,
Yes.
right, last year, is very involved in this work.
Okay.
And she is part of the workshops that AWAM conducts all around the country, exactly to address those issues.
So AWAM, it stands for All Women's Action Society, and it's a feminist organization, and they particularly focus on the women's issue. So we talk about the education just now, right? So does AWAM actually do approach schools in particular, because educating people is important, and then all this young generation, they need to be aware what's going on around them, and this domestic violence is one of them. So has AWAM approached to schools before?
Yeah, what I know is like AWAM did few workshop in schools where they get invited by some schools and even company. Like
Companies.
Recently we just did a sexual harassment workshop for Sam Darby Convention Center.
I see. And
So-
how was the response like?
It was we are very all the staff were very engaging with this problem, and they were aware that this issue is very important.
What about in terms of like the workshops and all? Is it targeted to a wide range of people? Is there a specific target group that you're looking at?
Basically, they focus in all of the stuff. When I observe.
Right. But AWAM does a whole
Yeah.
wide scope of education awareness programs, as well as generally like helping women in these cases who are on the receiving end of abuse and whatnot, and violence against themselves, to reach out and to find the proper support channel to deal with these issues. So I believe it's actually from A to Z, that whole range of reaching out, educating, and also helping the people involved in these unfortunate cases to get themselves out of the cases. And that's the general mainstay of the work. And then in addition to that, you've got special campaigns. In this one in particular, the white ribbon that we're talking about is the one that involves the guys as well.
I see.
The men coming in to work for the cause.
Well, Tim mentioned that men started it, so they should stop
like
it.
what? Yeah, we should
men
stop.
who started it. So
But it's interesting that you mentioned earlier at this that you never actually had first-hand experience of women being because for you guys to be involved in this, I would assume that you probably had seen something or experienced something, which is why you're stepping in now.
Well, for me personally, Gowri, is more for because I come from a slightly different perspective. I'm of course supporting the campaign wholeheartedly, and I truly believe in the cause. In addition to that, I also have a slightly different opinion, and this is my personal opinion. Not being part of AWAM permanently because I'm not staff. I'm one of the many guys
Ambassadors.
who are involved in this campaign. So I come from the perspective that I am for the cause. I like to approach it from a different angle for me personally. And in a nutshell, because I think it would take too long for me to talk about my perspective, but I like to see it as almost like coming from the opposite perspective, as in like, if we're going to eliminate violence against women, we're going to minimize that, we're going to reduce that. So what better way than to encourage the positive side of things, and that is to protect, to allow and to nurture women to be at their best, and when they're at their best, or when they're allowed to flourish, when ladies like you guys, you ladies.
yes. Thank you.
Yeah, so, because the word you use guys, use gals, and some people don't like using the term gals, isn't it? But you know what I mean.
Ladies.
we
Ladies.
like ladies.
Okay,
Carry
ladies.
on.
Okay. So it's to allow and to support and to have that mutual love, understanding, so that we can allow each of our genders to flourish and to be at our best. So for me, it's about that. It's about nurturing. It's about love. It's about support. And then from that perspective, hopefully we'll see cases of violence against women, abuse against women reduce. That's my perspective. Yeah.
And what about in terms of feminism? Because a lot of the opinion these days, especially, I'm not sure if you guys saw the Emma Watson feminist speech, where people think that feminism is all about trashing men and saying that man is not good enough. And what is this new age feminism really about? Is it just for equality, or is it to say that women can actually be better than men? What's
I
your
think it's
take
more
on that?
than my personal opinion, more than like a woman is better than men. It's more like women need to have freedom and also right to voice out what they believe that it's right for them. Yeah, and then that also links to human rights among women as well. Yeah, you can continue to my opinions.
Well, that's I would certainly agree with that. I mean, it's all about rights as human beings, human rights, and more importantly, also to add on the dimension of who we really are. We talk about us all as being human beings.
Right.
We've got our, we've got our physical bodies. We're differentiated into generally two genders, sometimes more, right? In different perspectives, but yet we are human inside, our souls, we are human beings. So, and the common ground against, or rather for all of that is essentially we are beings of love and light. Yeah.
That's
So
really positive.
when we allow that to happen and we focus on that, I truly believe then, of course, all sorts of negativity, all sorts of violence and all that will reduce. And we have to also remember the perspective of, here we're talking mainly about physical violence,
Right.
but and abuse. But there are also different types of that. I mean, it's
course.
not just physical. I mean, we talk about, when I mentioned for me personally, I don't know how it is for Tim, I've not had to see cases of physical violence around me. I've heard of it. You know, so and so, you know, has a husband who unfortunately beats the wife up when he's drunk, things like that.
Yes.
From my childhood, I remember stories like that that my relatives would tell me, or we would be talking at a gathering and somebody would bring that up. Never seeing it firsthand, but perhaps maybe hearing of stories like that, and maybe in addition to that, hearing or seeing more smaller examples, but at least real examples of verbal abuse.
Oh,
You know, because that's also a form of violence.
that
Of
is very
course,
dangerous, and
Mhm.
that can actually lead to depression and also committing suicide
Suicide.
after all. Yeah.
Exactly, and it's just to be fair on both perspectives, and that's vice versa. It could be verbal abuse from a man to a woman, but it could also be the
Yeah,
reverse.
the way around. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
So that is in addition to what we're talking about today, but that is my personal perspective also, because I talked about mutual respect, love for each other, men for women, women for men, and within each genders also, of course, and importantly as well is to be able to take stock and hold ourselves responsible towards the words that we say and how we say things. Do you know what I mean? So communication is also a verbal methods of communication is also part, I think, a very important and key part of this whole idea of basically tackling abuse and violence. Because I guess maybe in the verbal perspective, the term abuse would probably be more suitable. Yeah. Yeah. So that's also very important to take stock of and to check ourselves.
Definitely. Yes.
You know, like, are we being
Yes.
verbally abusive? Because a lot of times when we are angry, we tend to lash out or speak harshly,
Right.
and maybe
And
sometimes lose our
sometimes the
temper.
words actually hurt more than the physical abuse.
Yeah, that's digressing a little bit off the topic, but it's something I think that's very important to keep in mind. On top of the aspects or the parts of something like the White Ribbon Campaign.
And what is the outcome that AWAM is hoping to achieve through this White Ribbon Campaign?
AWAM believe that, like what Kong Yu said just now, is this is not only a woman issue. It's about human right issues. So AWAM believe try to get that. We hope that this the platform that we provide. Men can, actually they can break their silence and proactively engage with the issues on violence against women. We really hope that.
So it'll be very interesting and at the same time very serious to watch all those men in heels or women in shoes walking for, even if it's just 400 meters.
Right.
Yeah.
100 meter.
100 meters,
Yeah.
sorry. Okay, 400 is too much for you, sorry. Yeah.
I think some of the guys have actually tried that.
Yeah.
I couldn't make it to the press conference last week. I think some of them tried it and they could barely make it to the stage where,
Oh, dear.
where they had to pose.
Only by standing is like hurting.
It's really,
I don't
yes.
get why women. Yeah.
Painful.
It's very painful.
So where do we find this event for more details and
yeah.
information?
Okay. For more details, you can always check AWAM's website, www.awam.org.my, or you can always call us at 0378774221. Yeah.
And do you also have a Facebook?
Yeah, we have
Or-
Facebook account as well. Is AWAM Malaysia. Just search for us.
And then there's even page, right? To link
Yeah,
to
yeah.
that.
To link to you can yeah.
So it's happening on the 7th of
7th.
December
Oh, I see.
in Padang Merbok,
Merbok.
and it's so far been a really, really great event. It's just good for everybody to come together in support of a cause. That's one thing. It's great for men and boys because there is a walk also that it can involve the entire family. So what happens is usually the people come, family people come in the whole family unit. They bring their kids and they push strollers, things like that, because it's only 3
Okay.
kilometers, I
Yeah.
believe, for the walk
For the walk.
part of it. And for all of us who like to be a little bit physically active, do a bit of running, and there's also that run component as well. So
Okay.
it attracts a bunch of people, a lot of people to support the cause. So we encourage everybody to be there and to sign up for the race. It's going to be pretty awesome.
It will be awesome.
So all the time that we actually have
Yeah.
for the slot. Thank you so much for coming in and joining us at the studio, and we wish you all the best, all the success.
And thank you for sharing
campaign.
stories about this, the coming events, and hope to see you again.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
thanks for having us, ladies. It
Yeah,
was a
thank you for
pleasure.
having us.